What if Yuji Itadori was in Demon Slayer? Now you guys were asking in one of my videos, which version of Yuji I'm going to use, Modulo Yuji or normal Yuji? And for the people in the comments saying it's too overpowered when I use characters like Gojo or Jinwoo, this one is for you guys. I'm not using Sukuna Yuji, I'm going with normal Yuji. But if this video gets enough likes and comments, I can make a Modulo Yuji version later. So let's get right into the video. Everything starts the same from the beginning. Tanjiro goes out to sell coal, comes back, and the old man tells him to stay the night because there are demons roaming. He listens, and when he returns in the morning, his entire family is dead. Muzan is responsible, and Nezuko is turned into a demon. Tanjiro carries her, trying to find help, and then Giyu shows up. Tanjiro and Giyu fight, and Giyu tells him to go train with Urokodaki. Tanjiro learns water breathing, goes to final selection, kills the hand demon, and then continues his journey defeating demons like the swamp demon and the drum demon, eventually meeting Zenitsu and Inosuke. Then we reach Mount Natagumo. Now just like I usually do, this is where I introduce the character. Since Yuji is around the same age as Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke, he's not a Hashira yet. He's basically a new demon slayer just like them. I think Yuji would learn something like stone breathing since it fits his fighting style. But for now, he still uses a normal Nichiren blade, so don't click off yet because that's just the starting point. Yuji meets them at the bottom of the mountain and immediately tries to kill Nezuko, but it's a misunderstanding and Tanjiro explains everything. After that, they all run up the mountain while Zenitsu stays behind like usual, later fighting the spider demon and getting poisoned. Now with Yuji added to the group, Tanjiro and Inosuke have way more help going up the mountain. They make their way through and eventually run into the father spider demon. Tanjiro still gets caught off guard and blasted away like in the original timeline, but this time, Yuji and Inosuke handle the father demon together. Yuji is more of a close-range fighter, so even if he misses with his sword, since he hasn't mastered breathing yet, he would just start throwing hands and punching the demon. Together, they defeat it before Giyu and Shinobu even arrive. When Giyu and Shinobu show up, Shinobu still kills the demon she originally killed and helps Zenitsu. Giyu goes to help Tanjiro against Rui, and everything plays out mostly the same there. Tanjiro still unlocks Hinokami Kagura, saves Nezuko, and the fight ends like usual. After that, we go to the Hashira meeting, which also plays out the same with Giyu and Urokodaki vouching for Tanjiro, and now instead of just the trio, it's basically a squad with Yuji included as they head into the Mugen Train arc. Now Yuji can still use cursed energy, but he doesn't rely on it that much because he understands that to kill demons, you need a Nichiren blade. Also, he mainly uses cursed energy through his fists, so he uses it more to slow demons down, since they can regenerate anyway. But the big thing is Black Flash. In Jujutsu Kaisen, Black Flash doesn't really stun opponents like that, but for this timeline, I'm changing it a bit so that Black Flash actually stuns demons, making Yuji way more effective in fights. I'm also not giving him blood manipulation or anything like that, so this is just pure Yuji with Black Flash. So now we move into the Mugen Train arc, and everything mostly plays out the same with the Dream Trap. Even with Yuji there, Rengoku still sends Tanjiro and Inosuke to defeat Lower Moon 1, Enmu, while Yuji helps protect the train along with Nezuko and Rengoku. The train still derails, and honestly, not much changes here, because Yuji still isn't at Hashira level yet when it comes to speed and overall power. Even if he lands a Black Flash, it's not enough to fully turn the fight. Then, we get to Rengoku versus Akaza. The fight plays out mostly the same, with Rengoku getting pushed back. But at the very end, when Akaza is about to land a finishing blow on Rengoku, Yuji steps in. Yuji lands a Black Flash, which actually stuns Akaza for a moment, something Akaza wasn't expecting at all. Now, Yuji isn't faster than Rengoku, but he's still extremely fast. We saw that in Jujutsu Kaisen, especially in the Death Painting arc, so he's definitely faster than Tanjiro at this point, and getting close to Hashira level speed. Because of that, he's able to land that Black Flash at the perfect moment. That stun gives Rengoku an opening to try and cut off Akaza's head. Akaza is caught off guard for a second, but he's still too strong overall and manages to block it. Then he sees the sun starting to rise and decides to retreat. But here's the big change. Rengoku survives in this timeline because he never takes that fatal blow to the stomach. After that, Rengoku returns and explains to the other Hashira what it was like fighting an upper moon and how strong Akaza really was. Meanwhile, Tanjiro, Yuji, Inosuke, and Zenitsu continue going on missions, getting stronger and leveling up over time until we reach the Entertainment District arc. Now for the Entertainment District arc, Tanjiro still volunteers along with Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Yuji, and when Yuji sees Tengen's weapons, he realizes they're custom made and not like normal Demon Slayer swords. And since he's kind of dumb, he never even thought about getting custom gear himself. So he starts asking if he can get something made later in the Swordsmith Village arc, like brass knuckle Nichiren weapons, or gauntlets that fit his hand-to-hand combat style, because they were able to make Mitsuri's ribbon-like sword and Gayome's massive weapon, so they can definitely make something like that. But for now, he still uses a normal sword as they head into the Entertainment District arc, and everything plays out mostly the same, and Yuji probably doesn't dress up as a girl, and might even replace Zenitsu Zenitsu, since nobody wanted Zenitsu anyway. So skipping to Tanjiro versus Daki, Tengen, his wives, Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Yuji are below fighting the Belt Demon, while Tanjiro fights Daki, and Tanjiro's fight still plays out the same, where he almost kills Daki using sun breathing, but runs out of breath, and Nezuko saves him until Tengen and the others arrive. And this time, Yuji isn't the main focus in Tanjiro's fight, but he plays a big role in the other side, because in the original timeline, Tanjiro switching fights to help Inosuke and Zenitsu is what led to Tengen losing his arm and having to fake his death. But in this timeline, Yuji is already there backing them up, and with Yuji's natural strength, speed, and Black Flash actually stunning demons here, it becomes way easier for Zenitsu and Inosuke to cut off Daki's head. Then Gyutaro appears, and the fight mostly plays out the same. But this time, Tengen never loses his arm because the pressure is split better. Tanjiro still unlocks the Demon Slayer mark while badly injured, and with Tengen still at full strength, they defeat Gyutaro much cleaner. Nezuko still heals everyone from the poison, and after that, they move on to the Swordsmith Village arc, where they all keep training. And this is when Yuji starts getting his gauntlets or brass knuckles made, which takes time because they have to mold it perfectly to his hands and fighting style. So Tanjiro and Yuji both head to the Swordsmith Village, and everything mostly plays out the same, with Yuji constantly working with the swordsmiths for measurements, while Tanjiro trains with the Yoriichi doll, meets Mitsuri, Muichiro, and Genya, and the arc continues from there. Now I'm gonna skip to the part where Muichiro clamps down on Tanjiro's nose, and Upper Moon 4 appears, and this time, Muichiro still gets blasted away, but right when Yuji's gauntlets are basically finished, maybe he only has one gauntlet or one brass knuckle done, he shows up with Genya and starts helping Tanjiro fight Upper Moon 4's emotion clones, while Muichiro gets sent away, and later fights Upper Moon 5 Gyoko, and with Yuji now in the fight, his durability, raw strength, and new Nichiren gauntlet weapon let him actually hold his own against at least 2 of the emotion clones, especially since his Black Flash in this timeline can blow off their heads or heavily damage them. So Tanjiro doesn't have to switch around with Genya as much, since Genya can't cut the main body's head, and Tanjiro still gets his red blade and starts overwhelming the clones, while Yuji, Genya, and Nezuko hold off the remaining emotion clones so Tanjiro can go track down the main body. And just like before, Mitsuri comes back after saving the village chief and holds off the strongest emotion clone, giving Tanjiro time. But this time, Tanjiro, Yuji, Nezuko, and Genya go together to find the main body. And it's way easier now since Yuji is there keeping up in speed and pressure, so Tanjiro doesn't get a broken foot or slowed down. And with Tanjiro using sun breathing and Yuji keeping pace with him, they reach the main body faster, and Tanjiro cuts it down with his new sword. Nezuko still conquers the sunlight, and this timeline ends the arc way cleaner, with barely any injuries and everyone surviving. And Mitsuri and Muichiro still unlock the Demon Slayer mark, with Muichiro still defeating Gyoko, Upper Moon 5. And now we move into the Hashira training arc. Now for the Hashira training arc, Yuji would still train because he actually needs it since it boosts his power, and now with his gauntlets or brass knuckles, whatever you guys want him to have, he would definitely want the Demon Slayer mark to boost himself even more. But anyway, the Hashira training arc plays out mostly the same, except Muichiro and Rengoku swap roles, since Muichiro is overstrained from training the Demon Slayer core, and Rengoku already knows how to train people since he trained Mitsuri and his little brother, so he takes over Muichiro's role to give him a break. And then the arc ends with the Ubuyashiki family sacrificing themselves and Muzan pulling everyone into the Infinity Castle. Now with Akaza still alive and Rengoku still alive, Rengoku and Tanjiro go to fight Akaza, while Giyu goes with Shinobu for the Upper Moon 2 fight, and Yuji stays with Muichiro and Gyomei for the Upper Moon 1 fight. And before that, the Upper Moon 3 fight isn't that crazy since Rengoku unlocks the Demon Slayer mark, and Tanjiro uses the selfless state to kill Akaza, with Akaza accepting his death just like normal. Then for Upper Moon 2, with Giyu there, he would never let Shinobu sacrifice herself, and since Giyu is one of the strongest Hashira with his mark and strong defense, he can hold his own against Doma, while Shinobu uses her speed and poison. And with Kanao and Inosuke arriving, they defeat Doma since it takes multiple Hashira level fighters. Now for Upper Moon 1, it mostly plays the same until Muichiro gets separated and fights Kokushibo first with Yuji there, and Yuji is honestly scared at first, while Muichiro still gets his arm cut off. But Yuji jumps in and tries to fight and immediately gets pushed to the brink of death since he's not on Kokushibo's level. But this time, he unlocks reverse cursed technique and starts healing himself mid-fight, though he can't heal others like Yuta, so Muichiro still loses his arm, and Yuji focuses on protecting him while Muichiro still wants to fight. Then Genya joins, followed by Sanemi and Gyomei, and now all of them jump Kokushibo, and Yuji becomes a huge factor since he can keep throwing hands and healing himself, as long as he avoids fatal damage, making him a strong distraction. So with Gyomei's strength and Sanemi's offense, they eventually take Kokushibo down, and Kokushibo dies like Akaza after realizing his past. Then the side fights happen the same, with Zenitsu beating Kaigaku with the 7th form, and Yushiro, Mitsuri, and and Obanai defeat Nakime and take control of the Infinity Castle until Muzan kills her and everyone gets sent outside for the final battle. And in the Sundown Countdown arc, not much changes since Yuji helps a lot with his healing, but the Hashira still get blasted back by Muzan's attack and many are still injured or die. But Tanjiro, Obanai, and the others still drag Muzan into the sun and kill him. And this time, Shinobu likely survives since she's fast enough to avoid the worst damage. While Giyu, Sanemi lived to 25, Gyome still dies from the mark. Mitsuri and Obanai might survive, but are heavily injured and still die at 25 anyway. And in the end, Shinobu and Giyu get together. Mitsuri and Obanai get together if they survive. And that wraps up the timeline. So I hope you guys really liked this video. Make sure to check out my 1-hour Demon Slayer compilation if you want something to relax to. And also check out What If Jinwoo Had All His Memories from the Beginning, since that video did really well. So make sure to like, subscribe, and check out the videos on your screen.